Week 10, Part 11. The Sea Between Them, May 1847. The first week aboard the prison ship was the hardest, not because of the hunger, not because of the cramped conditions, not even because of the chains. The hardest part was that Ireland disappeared. A man could endure almost anything if he believed he was still connected to something. A wife, a child, a home, a familiar road. But once the land vanished beyond the horizon, Sean felt as though a piece of himself had been torn away. The sea didn't simply separate him from Ireland, it separated him from the person he had been. The ship moved slowly at first. The wind was unreliable and the great sails hung uselessly for hours. Below deck, the prisoners lived by routine: wake, count, food, work, sleep. The days blended together and the men learned the sounds of the ship, the creaking of timber, the slap of waves against the hull, the footsteps of guards above, the coughs of prisoners below. The coughs were the worst. Sean had learned to fear that sound. A cough could mean a cold could mean fever, a cold could mean a man was already leaving the world. The ship surgeon inspected the prisoners regularly. He examined faces, checked tongues, listened to breathing, asked questions. Fever? No. Cough? No. Pain? No. Men learned quickly. A sick man was not always treated kindly. A sick man delayed the voyage. A sick man consumed resources. So men lied, even when their bodies told the truth. Sean thought constantly of Liam. He wondered whether his son's fever had broken, whether Breed had found help, whether Mary was still asking questions, whether she still carried the little wooden horse's twin memory in her heart. He hated himself for leaving. Even though he had not chosen to leave, even though the law had taken him, a father always finds a way to blame himself. One evening, Michael O'Shea sat beside him. "You've barely spoken." Sean looked up, thinking, "That can be dangerous." Sean almost smiled. "I know." Michael nodded toward the deck above. "You think about home?" "Aye." "Don't do it too much." "Why?" "Because the sea gives a man nothing back." Sean frowned. "What do you mean?" Michael looked around at the other prisoners. "I've seen men survive worse than this." He paused. "But some men die because they stop believing they belong anywhere else." Sean looked down. "I have a place." Michael waited. "My wife." Sean swallowed. "My children." The older man nodded. "Then hold on to them." Days became weeks. The coastline of Europe disappeared. The Atlantic surrounded them, endless, empty, without mercy. Some men began singing at night, old songs, songs of Ireland. The guards sometimes ordered them to stop, but they always started again. Quietly, one voice, then another, until the lower deck was filled with memories. Sean knew many of the songs. His father had sung them while working. His mother had sung them while preparing meals. Now they sounded different, not like celebration, like mourning. One night, Patrick Doyle, the young prisoner who had stolen the coat, asked Sean a question. "Do you think we'll ever come back?" Sean looked at him. Patrick was only 16, still a boy. "To Ireland?" "Aye." Sean looked towards the darkness beyond the ship. "I don't know." Patrick nodded. "I think my mother believes I will." "Does she?" "Aye." "Then believe it too." Patrick smiled faintly. "Do you?" Sean hesitated. Then he answered honestly, "I believe I'll see my family again." It was not the same answer. Both men understood. Several weeks into the voyage, sickness spread throughout the ship. A fever moved quickly. The lower deck became a place of whispers. Men who had boarded strong now lay weak. The surgeon worked constantly. Some recovered, some did not. When a prisoner died, there was little ceremony. A prayer, a final covering, then the sea. Sean witnessed the first burial from the deck. The body was wrapped in canvas. The ship slowed, a bell rang. The men stood silent. Then the body slipped away into the waves. Sean looked at the empty space afterward. He wondered whether the sea remembered anyone. At night he dreamed of home, always the same dream. The cottage was standing, the roof repaired, the fire burning. Breed was inside, preparing food. Mary was laughing. Liam was chasing chickens outside. Sean would wake suddenly, and for a few moments he believed it. Then he would feel the movement of the ship, smell the damp wood, hear the prisoners breathing, and remember. One morning a guard called his name. "Maher." Sean stood. The guard handed him a small bundle. "Your belongings." Sean opened it. Almost everything was gone. A few coins, a piece of cloth, the wooden horse. Mary's horse. He held it carefully. The guard looked at it. Family? Sean nodded. Daughter. The guard was quiet. Then he said something unexpected. Keep it. Sean looked up. I intend to. As the weeks passed, the men began hearing rumours. The destination was near. Van Diemen's Land, a strange name, a strange place, a place most had never even imagined. Some said it was beautiful. Some said it was worse than prison. Some said a man could start again. Others laughed. You don't start again. An old prisoner named Conall Byrne shook his head. You carry everything with you. Sean thought about that. He believed it was true. A man carried his memories, his mistakes, his loves, his losses. No distance could remove them. Far across the ocean, Breed was carrying hers. The summer had not brought relief, not for the Maher family. The little food they found became harder to find. The relief stations became more crowded. The roads became quieter. The families who could leave had left. The families who could not remained and slowly disappeared. Liam grew weaker, but he still waited. Every evening he looked toward the road. Ma'am? Will Dad come before winter? Breed always answered the same. I hope so. The first time she said it, she meant yes. The last time she said it, she meant she didn't know how else to answer. Mary had stopped carrying her wooden horse. She kept it beneath her blanket. Breed discovered why one night. Why don't you play with it any more? Mary looked embarrassed. It's not a toy. What is it? A memory. Breed turned away quickly before her daughter had said something no child should ever need to understand. On the ship, Sean stood on deck as the lookout shouted, Land! The word moved through the prisoners like electricity. Land. After weeks of water, after endless days of nothing. Land. Men crowded toward the railing. Sean stood among them. Ahead lay a coastline, a new country, a new prison, a new life, or what remained of one. The ship entered the harbour slowly, and the men were ordered below. Chains were prepared. The guards moved among them. Sean held Mary's horse in his hand. He closed his fingers around it. Somewhere behind him was Ireland. Somewhere beyond the horizon was Breed. Somewhere beside her were his children. He whispered their names, Breed, Mary, Liam. Then he stepped forward toward the place that would become his prison, toward the place where he would spend the next 10 years, toward a future he had never wanted. On the shore of Ireland, at almost the exact same moment, Breed looked out towards the sea. She didn't know the ship had arrived. She didn't know Sean was still alive. She only knew that the person who had carried half the weight of their suffering was gone, and the weight she carried alone was becoming too heavy. Week 10, Part 12. The Last Road Home. June 1847. The oak tree still stood. That was the first thing Breed noticed. Everything else had changed. The families who once gathered beneath its branches were gone. Some had found passage to America. Some had entered the workhouse. Some had simply disappeared, leaving behind only the empty places where their fires had once burned. But the oak remained, tall, silent, unmoved, as though the world had not fallen apart beneath it. Breed sat against the trunk with Liam resting in her arms. He had become so light that frightened her the most. When she carried him as a baby, her arms had ached from his weight. Now she could hold him for hours without feeling tired. The child should grow heavier, not lighter. Not disappear little by little until a mother could barely feel him. Ma'am? She looked down. I'm here. Is it morning? Did Da come? The question came softly, almost apologetically, as though Liam knew he was asking something impossible. Breed brushed his hair away from his forehead. No, love. Oh. He closed his eyes. Maybe tomorrow. Breed looked away because she couldn't say yes anymore, not even to comfort him. Mary sat nearby collecting small sticks for the fire. She was 7 now. Though Breed sometimes looked at her and saw someone much older, the famine had stolen years from her. She no longer played, no longer asked for things, no longer complained. She had become careful with food, careful with words, careful with hope. Ma'am, When Liam goes to heaven, Breed froze. Don't talk like that. Mary lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. No. Breed reached for her. I'm sorry. Mary came closer. What is Dad doing now? The question surprised her. I don't know. Is he hungry? Breed looked towards the sea. She imagined a ship far away, a man standing on foreign soil, a man who believed his family was waiting for him. I hope not. Mary nodded. I hope he knows we love him. Breed held her tightly. He knows. The following week, Liam stopped eating. At first, Breed tried everything: soup, broth, soft bread when she could find it. She begged, she pleaded. She sang to him. Nothing worked. His body had simply grown too tired. One evening, as the sun disappeared behind the hills, he opened his eyes. Ma'am. I'm here. Can we go home? The question was almost a whisper, and Breed closed her eyes. We are home. Liam looked around at the tree, at the field, at the little shelter they had built. No. He shook his head weakly. Home with Da. Breed couldn't answer, because she wanted that home too, more than anything in the world. That night she held him. She held him as she had when he was born. She held him when he first walked. She held him when he cried from falling. She held him when fever took him, and before dawn she held him as he became still. The world didn't stop. That was the cruelest thing. The sun rose, birds sang, people walked the road. Somewhere a farmer ploughed a field, somewhere a child laughed. And Breed Maher sat beneath the oak tree holding her dead son. Mary understood before Breed spoke. Children always know. She crawled beside her brother. Liam? Nothing. She touched his hand, and then she began crying. Not loudly, not like a child, like someone who had been carrying grief for too long. Grief pulled both children close, one alive, one gone, until finally she had to let one go. They buried him beneath the oak tree. Sean would have wanted a proper grave, a stone, a marker, something permanent, but there was no money, no priest, no ceremony, only Breed, Mary, and a neighbour who helped dig. Before they covered him, Mary placed something beside him, her wooden horse. Breed looked at her. Are you sure? Mary nodded. He liked it. He never played with it. He liked knowing it was there. Breed understood, because sometimes love was not about possessing something. Sometimes it was about leaving something behind. After Liam was gone, Mary lasted 12 days. 12 days. Breed counted every one, because counting her gives something to hold on to. The first 3 days, Mary barely spoke. The 4th day, she asked if Liam was with Da. The 7th day, she asked whether heaven had chickens. The 10th day, she stopped asking questions, and on the 12th morning, she woke before sunrise. Ma'am? Breed took her hand. I had a dream. What about? Dad came home. Breed forced a smile. Did he? Mary nodded. He was carrying bread. Breed looked away. That's a good dream. He said he was proud of me. The tears came then. Not from Mary, from Breed. Because Mary deserved to hear those words from her father, not in a dream. When Mary died, Breed was alone. Completely alone. The neighbour who had helped with Liam returned. The old woman from the relief station brought a small amount of food. But everyone had their own suffering. Everyone was carrying something. No one could carry hers. For 3 days, Breed remained beneath the oak tree. She stopped looking for food, stopped walking, stopped caring whether the world continued. The hunger that had surrounded her for months was no longer outside her, it was inside, a hollow place where her family had been. One morning she stood, slowly, almost like a person learning to walk again. She folded the blankets, she picked up the empty pot, she gathered the few possessions that remained. There was almost nothing. A cloth, a cup. Sean's letter. She carried the letter against her chest, not because it changed anything, because it was the last proof that once she had not been alone. She walked west, towards the cliffs, the same cliffs she had seen as a child. The sea stretched endlessly before her, the same sea that had carried Sean away, the same sea that had taken countless others from Ireland, emigrants, prisoners, those searching for a better life, those running from a worse one. The wind was strong. Breed stood near the edge. Below her, waves crashed against the rocks. She wasn't angry. It surprised her. She had expected anger at the landlords, at the government, at the famine, at God. But there was only exhaustion, a tiredness deeper than hunger. She took Sean's letter from her pocket, read the first lines again. my beloved Breed. She closed her eyes. She could hear his voice, not the voice from prison, not the voice from the courtroom, the voice from before, when they were young, when the world still seemed endless. Behind her, somewhere far away, Ireland continued. People walked roads, ships left harbours, fields waited for planting, life continued, even after taking everything from her. Breed looked towards the horizon. Somewhere beyond that water, Sean was alive, maybe. Perhaps he thought of her. Perhaps he held Mary's horse. Perhaps he still believed he would return. She hoped he did. Because love was sometimes the cruelest thing of all. It allowed a person to survive almost anything, until there was nothing left to survive for. She stepped closer. The wind pulled at her dress. The sea roared below. For one final moment she closed her eyes. She saw the cottage. The real one, not the ruined shell. She saw the fire, the table, Mary laughing, Liam chasing chickens, Sean walking through the door after a day's work. She saw the family they had been, the family they should have remained. Then she opened her eyes. A fisherman passing below later said he saw a woman standing near the cliff's edge. He shouted. She didn't turn. He ran toward the path. By the time he reached the top, she was gone. Years later, far away in Van Diemen's Land, a man named Sean Maher carried a small wooden horse in his pocket. He never spoke much about Ireland. He worked, he survived, he served his sentence, and every evening when the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, he looked west, toward an ocean he could never cross, toward a country he could never forget, toward a wife and children who had become memories before he had even learned they were gone. The Great Hunger took millions of things from Ireland. It took crops, it took homes, it took communities. It took futures, but the greatest losses were not counted in official records. They were found in empty chairs, in unopened letters, in parents who buried children, in husbands and wives separated by oceans, in ordinary people forced to make impossible choices. Sean and Breed Maher were not famous. They were not remembered by history books. They were simply two people who loved their children, and in the darkest year Ireland had ever known, that was both their greatest strength and their greatest suffering.